Hey, Wemberg World Entertainment, and it's finally here. Alien Earth. They've dropped the first 2 episodes out of this series, and I'm gonna review both episodes. And let me just start off by saying, if we all thought James Gunn had an ego, holy hell, Noah Hawley has grown one hell of an ego, because he has inserted himself into the show. Yeah, there's these weird flashback kind of things to our main character, who's called Wendy. There's a reason for that, and her brother. Their father in flashbacks is Noah Hawley, and there's a fair bit of flashbacks to him. And you're like, oh good god, like the first time I saw him I was like, is that Noah Hawley? Did he actually put himself in here? And then it keeps showing them and you're like, oh god, it is Noah Hawley. He actually put himself in this show. So the first episode is called Neverland, and the second episode is called Mr. October. So the first episode is about the crash of the ship, and the second episode is about Wendy trying to find her brother. So we'll dive into the first episode. There's not really much to spoil, so I'll just talk about the episode. So there's good and quite bad, unfortunately, when it comes to these first 2 episodes. The good has to be the visual effects. They are fantastic. They are spot on. All of the set designs, everything like that, fantastic, spot on. The look of the world, great, all that type of stuff. Performances, good as well. There's no real issues there. Bad stuff, however, is it gets very artsy fartsy in the editing and stuff, and quite frankly, to me, it was off-putting, a bit of a mess. There's a hell of a lot more of it in the first episode than there is the second episode, but it's definitely an issue, as is them not explaining things. So the first episode is obviously seeing the kid. I can't remember what is it Macy? I think it's Macy is the girl's name, whose consciousness is uploaded into the synthetic body. Now, we're told at the beginning through a little bit of text, different bits of information. So to start with, the ship, which name I can't remember offhand. If it comes to me, I'll say it. That's mission was to go out and get life forms, and it tells you its mission duration was 65 years, and it's 803 million miles away from Earth when we meet it. The girl Macy, it's either Macy or Mendy, I think it's Macy. We also are watching her getting her consciousness uploaded into the synthetic, which we are told there are 3 versions of synthetics. Basically, there are androids, then there are synthetics, and then there is what these are now going to be known as hybrids. So it's like, okay, that's a bit weird, but okay, let's see how you make this work. So that's the information we're kind of given, except for one big problem that this show is going to run into for what Noah Hawley has said about it, is the date. The date is 2120. Noah Hawley says this takes place in between Alien and Aliens, closer to Aliens. That can't be the case because Alien takes place in 2122. So there's no possible way this can be actually connected to those movies. But there's a treaty in place between 4 corporations. So we know that there is now 4 corporations. There is obviously Weyland-Yutani, who run the US and North America. I can't remember whether they said South America as well, but definitely America and North America. That's their territories. The Prodigy, who we're with in this, is in Asia. So they have the Asian side of things. And then there's other corporations. But the treaties are that they pretty much won't encroach on each other's territory and stuff like that. You have to go through lawyers and stuff. Now, we're introduced to one of the main characters, the head of the Prodigy Corporation, Boy Cavalier. He's the one who's making these synthetics that you can transfer human consciousness over to. But there is a catch. It seems to be only kids who can get transferred over because their minds aren't fully developed. But they're using sick kids to transfer into it. Now, I was curious as to how it's going to play out with aliens running around, people getting ripped apart and stuff with kids when these are essentially meant to be kids. They do have an issue with that in the second episode, which I'll get to. They do cover some of it, but then they kind of seem to forget. Do we get a lot of xenomorph or anything like that in the first episode? No. Xenomorph is in there. In fact, the main part of the xenomorph in the first episode you've seen in the clip they released of the... this guy's actually an android. He's not a synthetic. He's a marrow. That he's in the control room with the ship, typing to Mother and saying the crew is dead, the species are loose and stuff like that. This is where the other issue comes in. We're not told or even shown how a xenomorph is on this ship. Now, we do see very briefly glimpses of the species they have. Again, it's all in the trailer. There's weird little bug things. There's this weird bigger bug thing. There's this plant thing, which we still have no idea what it is. There's the eyeball yolk, and there's face huggers. But what this show does, there's two main issues it does regarding two big story points. One is, how did all hell break loose on the ship that causes it to crash? We don't know, we're not shown, and we're not told. As of yet anyway. We're watching them going into cryo, going into the chambers for sleep. What are they called again? Leading cryo chambers, whatever. They're going into those. The next thing we know, the ship is being told it's on a collision course, and the xenomorph is out. Don't even know where the xenomorph came from because we never saw a facehugger getting out. That part is like, okay, you could have shown and explained how this is happening. While that's happening, at the same time, the technology regarding uploading the consciousness of kids into these synthetic bodies is not explained either. It's just the girl is sick, she's brought in, told, oh yeah, we're going to upload you into her, and they lie down and they do it, and that's it. It's like there was no explanation as to how this technology came about, how Boy Cavalier found this technology and was able to do it. There's no explanation to that. And I think that's two massive critical points that they absolutely dropped the ball on, is no explanation as to how they got this technology, and no explanation as to how a xenomorph came to be and is loose on this ship. So all of that is a bit weird and dumb. As is the fact that a whole beginning of the first episode, it does these weird intercut scenes, and it's very off-putting the way it's done and when it's done, and it's very kind of arty-farty style. It's like, ooh, look what we're doing this, we're gonna quickly show you a flash of a xenomorph that makes no sense with the person who's talking and stuff like this, and you're just like shaking your head going, this is a bit stupid. So overall, the first episode, I wasn't overly impressed. The second episode, oh, by the way, I should say, when the ship crashes on Earth into Prodigy City, a team of what seems to be Marines, but they're search and rescue, go to the ship, and they end up in it and around it and stuff. The building it crashed into is going to collapse at any time. So they're going around trying to clear it out, and stupid things happen with this. Number one is they're search and rescue, and yet they're running in fully armed, calling out search and rescue. And you're like, why are you armed if you're search and rescue? This is weird. Wendy, her brother, whose name is Joe, is, at least that's what she calls him. His thing seems to be down CJ, but she calls him Joe, so that's what I'm going with. He's a medic who tried to get out of, he wanted to quit the company, and much like what we saw in Alien Romulus with the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, they screw you over. They're like, no, you've still 7 months on your credits, you have to continue. So he ends up there, and we find out that Wendy's been watching him. She's able to access screens, and she's been watching where he goes all the time. As far as he's aware, his sister's dead. He was told his sister's dead. Oh, by the way, I should mention Wendy and all the other kids who become these hybrids, and the fact that they're on the island called Neverland. It's all because Boy Cavalier seems to have a thing for Peter Pan. So she calls herself Wendy because of Wendy in Peter Pan. And what are the group called when they come together? Yeah, you've probably guessed it already. The Lost Boys. because it's all a Peter Pan analogy, and it's like, okay. The other part that's really stupid, and you're just like, oh, this is weird and dumb. The guy Marrow gets two of the search and rescue people and ties them up. Obviously, his mission is to stop anyone from getting the specimens. While they're tied up, one of the weird creature things, the little bug yolks we've met, goes onto one of the guys. Actually, this happens before he gets tied up, but it's right before they get tied up. It ends up on the back of his shirt, and you're thinking, okay. But it crawls over his collar, down into his shirt, and I'm like, and you're not feeling this, because it's not small, and no, he did not feel it. He did not know it until it came out of his shirt, up onto his face when he's tied up, and it's like, you never felt that. How did you not feel that? So that's basically what's happening, and then the xenomorph starts chasing Joe for some reason, only Joe. Here's the other issue, which more goes into the second episode, but Noah Hawley doesn't seem to really know the purpose of the xenomorph. And we'll get into that with episode 2, which obviously Wendy and stuff now want to go on the rescue mission to the ship because she now knows that her brother is there. Now, the whole thing with the kids is they can't go home and they can't tell their parents and stuff that they're still alive. Well, or at least parents who don't know, because Wendy's father brought her to Neverland and told the brother, we're told this by the way, that he told the brother, like, your sister died, and they even had a funeral for her. But they end up going there. Now, Joe keeps getting chased by the xenomorph, and he keeps getting away. By the way, the xenomorph, what we do see of it, it's a guy in a suit, which is good. Good on them. They used practical effects. Problem is, they used too much of a suit. And what I mean by that is, they seem to have forgotten to put, like, this slimy, wet look to it and stuff, because it literally looks like a guy in a suit. And that's an issue. You're like, oh. And they light it a bit too much so you can see it really clearly, and it kind of stands out a bit too much as a dude in a suit, which is an issue. But what now Holly doesn't understand about the xenomorph is the xenomorph will go for someone, and usually the first person that goes for it brings back the cocoon, so it can either have the queen lay facehuggers, and obviously the facehuggers then start a new cycle, or the xenomorph itself can transform into a queen and lay eggs and whatnot. He doesn't seem to understand that, because all this xenomorph does is tear people a new one, like rips them in half to every single person it comes across, and it like bypasses people to get to other people and stuff, and it's like, yeah, dude, you really didn't understand how the cycle for these things works. It's a bit weird. But Wendy does get there and stuff, and they do meet up with Joe, and the whole episode ends weird for the second one. But overall, the second episode is more, it's structured slightly better than the first episode, but not by much. They still do this intercutting of weird flashbacks and other scenes and stuff, and it's really off-putting when it does it. So Joe is attacked by the xenomorph, but the xenomorph ends up running into, this is weird, there's some party going on in the house, okay? They don't seem to give a flying hoot that this ship has crashed into the building and that the building is going to come down at any second. They're all dressed in like 1800s style clothes or whatever, and you're like, what the hell is going on? They're like, no, we shall not leave. Boy Cavalier may tell us if we need to leave, and close up. And then when one of the security guys is getting ripped apart by the xenomorph, that part looked stupid actually. It stabs him in the face with its inner teeth, but then it's shaking him about, and it looked stupid, to be honest. But the guy comes out because the dude is getting his head ripped off basically, and he automatically starts firing his gun. So the guy comes out to see what's happening. The xenomorph bypasses Joe and runs into the apartment and starts ripping him up and all of his guests up. Then Joe ends up in there, gets attacked by the xenomorph, but Morrow basically stuns the xenomorph and then puts it into some weird cocoon sack thing. But he also stuns Joe. Joe stands up and says thank you, and he instantly stuns him. And you're just like, okay. And as he's bringing the xenomorph to take the elevator. The next wave of the team show up, and he's like, they ignore that there's a giant 8-foot bag that's moving. They ignore that to go for the synthetic, well, the android. He's an android. And he's like, yeah, I'm the least of your problems. And of course the xenomorph breaks out and instantly, like within a fraction of a second, has killed 5 of these people in one go. And it's just like, what the hell? And runs off. And you're just like, what is going on? We do meet some of the other species. The big plant thing, we still don't know what the hell it is. It's just hanging off a ceiling. The eyeball thing, we get introduced to that in a cat. Oh, that's the one thing I forgot to say about the first episode. When we first, the Menagino, that's the name of the ship, Menagino. When we first go on board that, they replicate the waking up scene from Alien and have the group sitting around having breakfast and stuff. The engineer guy actually has a ginger cat. It's like, oh wow, you're really just throwing in a Jonesy reference here. But when we meet the cat again, it's got that eyeball alien thing in it and it tries to attack one of the synthetic ones. Now, this is where the other issue comes along with the synthetics, because they're essentially children. They act like children. So there's 2 of them, 2 of the guys, and they're constantly like ribbing off each other. They're constantly messing with each other. There's a girl who was in a wheelchair. She seems to kind of just be glad that she's no longer in a wheelchair and she's healthy again, but she still fears growing up and dying. Then there's a redhead one. This one's the most childish like one, who's like terrified of everything and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, how are these actually going to deal with seeing dead bodies and stuff? Now, when they first walk into a room, 3 of them walk into the room. The one who couldn't walk, one of the guys, and this redhead one. And there's a body on the ground. Actually, it's the 2 bodies of the security guys that Morrow tied up. And the one who used to be in the wheelchairs instantly says to the other one, don't look. And she like looks away and stuff because it's like terrifying. Then that cat comes along and weird eyeball alien tries to get in her and they all freak out. But when the rest of them, because they're acting like kids and their attitude is very childish, you know, they're like sitting in chairs and spinning around and stuff like that. They should be terrified and horrified to see bodies, and they're not. They walk in and see like people ripped to shreds and they're just like, oh wow, like look at this. That's an issue. It's like, no, they should actually be freaking out, and they don't. And that's another thing I forgot to mention in the first episode, is when Wendy, we first meet her, she's sitting up on a cliff and gets called, and I'm thinking, is she going to climb down or something? No, she jumps off the side of this cliff down onto the beach, and she's just like, I'll race you. And I'm like, oh, from the height she jumped, like, you've literally made these guys indestructible. And that is another issue. It's like, her legs still would have buckled. Even a synthetic would have come apart from that height that she jumped from. No bother here. And it's like, wow, you really just made them indestructible. So the second episode, we do find out then that Wayland Yutani, more so Yutani, gets in contact with Boy Cavalier and says, like, flat out, yeah, that's our ship. We need to go out and collect what's on it, you know. It's none of your business, basically. We're a deep space research vessel. And he's saying, oh, well, you know, unfortunately, it's in our territory. Building's unstable. I can't let yous. And all this stuff. And because she said that, he's instantly, I want what's on that ship. And that's their mission then. And by the end of the second episode, they come across a load of the eggs. Don't know how the eggs are there and all sitting out in a cargo bay, but there is. The xenomorph comes and finally gets Joe. Joe now knows that Wendy's his sister. That, like, they just ruined that one straight away. And she goes off to find him. And that's where it ends. But it ends weird because it's like this weird moment of her telling the other synthetic, like, hey, wait here. Don't move, I'm going to get Joe. And this rock song kicks in. I was like, wait a minute, I thought something else was playing. I thought something else would start playing in the house. I was like, hang on, where's that music? Is that in this? Sure enough, it was in that. So the music, by the way, the music is fine. There are a few songs that come in that kind of are out of place. The music at the very beginning does try and replicate, only newer, the Alien soundtrack, the original Alien soundtrack. just that they've updated it a bit, and they put that in every now and again. But again, that's at the very beginning, and it really goes with that nostalgia bait of, oh, look at them all sitting around having dinner like you saw in Alien when they all woke up, and first thing they're doing is having cigarettes and stuff like that. And, oh, look, a ginger cat again and stuff like that. So overall, first 2 episodes, I'm not overly impressed. There's interesting ideas there. It's just the structure of them isn't great. And this flashy here, there, and everywhere is quite off-putting for now. So we'll have to wait and see where it goes. But as of now, I'm not 100% sold on this. And yeah, I don't also like the fact that Noah Hawley actually put himself in there as well. It's like, why did you do that, dude? So yeah, if you've seen it, let us know what you think of it. Did you enjoy it? Do you think it's a bit too pretentious? Do you think it's too artsy-fartsy? Do let us know, because it'll be curious to see what the reaction from especially Alien fans will be to this show. So if you've seen it, let us know. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.